Welcome to Smash Avo Property. Today I'm speaking with Courtney Te'ray. She's a 29-year-old property investor from Melbourne who's currently working for the tech company AMD and has been building out her portfolio with her partner since she was 21. She walks us through her light bulb moment for passive income and the transition from not saving a penny to saving as much as possible. I'm so honoured she accepted to be on the podcast as she's a true inspiration for all aspiring young female property investors. As always, seek your own professional financial, legal and property investment advice for your current situation. Everything we talk about is general in nature and our opinion and should never be considered as personal advice. So without any further ado, let's get house hunting with Courtney.
Courtney Te'ray, welcome to Smash Avo Property.
Thank you for having me.
It's so good to finally get you on. I've heard you on a couple of podcasts before and very impressed of how you've set yourself up and what you've been doing in the property investment area. But it's good to get you on and sort of motivate especially the female younger generation to get involved in property investing. But yeah, it's been nice to connect with you so far.
Yes, thank you so much. It's always really fun to be able to tell your story, and especially when I know that there's other women out there like me that are kind of looking for a female voice to sort of identify with, or be like, hey, if she can do it, I can do it too. So thank you for having me on.
Nah, it's fantastic. So for the listeners, why don't you share a little bit about yourself, how old you are and what you're currently up to for work?
Yeah, well, I'm 29 and my partner Aaron and I started property investing when we were 20, 21. So it's been a few years now. So I currently work at AMD, which is an American tech company. But yeah, our main focus really is just building our portfolio. So, you know, at the end of the day, when I'm ready, I can just be like, hey, see you later, job. Don't need you anymore.
Yeah, just have that passive source of income. I think that's the end goal for everyone, right, in property investing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, you know, I suppose to some degree, you know, having a job is a necessary element to building out that property portfolio. So, you know, we've all got to do it, but, you know, it's nice when you can enjoy what you do along the way.
Yeah, exactly. If you can enjoy the process. And I mean, if you're spending time doing things that you enjoy, that's then funding your property investment portfolio. Like that's fine. Like you got to do something with your time. You can't just retire at the age of 22 and do nothing moving forward.
No, absolutely. It's a win-win, but it's pretty full on. I mean, you're working full time, you're doing your property. My partner runs an electrical business, so we lead busy lives, I'll say that.
Yeah, I can just imagine. I feel your pain. So what inspired you to get into property investing and when did you start?
Well, I suppose I started at the age of about 21 when I started saving, and that was sort of on my radar. But I think what really inspired me was sort of growing up, I've seen my parents, you know, have to budget out their money. And I just thought, like, man, that's exhausting. Like, I do not want to be doing that. And I think I was gifted a property book for my 20th birthday. And I read that, and it sort of talked about what passive income is. And I was hooked. I'm like, that's the ticket. And sort of from that point, I just consumed every book you could possibly read on property to sort of up my level of knowledge, and then pulled the trigger at 22.
Very nice. And I think that was the biggest light bulb moment for me is realizing that I could generate income without doing anything, like while I was sleeping. That was such a light bulb turning on for me. Like I really just was like, okay, this is what I want to do too. Do you remember what that first book was at all, by any chance?
To be honest, upon reflection, it's probably the worst book I could have read, but it did the trick. So it was 0 to 130 Properties by Steve McKnight. And
yeah.
his focus was on like high yield properties, which is not my strategy at all anymore. I wouldn't advise anyone to go out and build a property full of those types of investments, but his the way that he explained passive income really resonated with me. So, you know, then I went and read the 4-Hour Work Week, and I was like, wow, this is next level. I've got to get in on this, because I would sit there and I would, you know, my dad was a tradie growing up, and I used to see how hard he worked for his money, and I was just like, there's got to be an easier way.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely, they're probably my two top favorite books, to be honest. Like 0 to 130 Properties was definitely what got me started. And I think, you know, I would still recommend reading that book, but not taking it into play. There's a lot of things in there that are completely different to today's market. Like he talks about, setting up a portfolio in different trust accounts, and then being able to go to multiple banks under different trust accounts, and being able to borrow like almost limitless amounts of money to keep buying investment properties. But that's just not doable in today's day and age with open banking and all that sort of stuff. But I still think the fundamental ideas of passive income and capital growth is still good to learn from that sense.
There. Yeah, absolutely. And back then, I mean, there weren't that many books, or there's not the level of information that we have available at our fingertips today, you know, with the internet. So you could only read what was available to you, and that was probably one of the leading books back then. And it definitely influenced our first property purchase, I would say. You know, we ended up purchasing in Ballarat. You know, that's where he was talking about, that's where he invested.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's where I've got to be.
Yeah.
But since then, I suppose our strategy has evolved more to include an element of capital growth, not just the yield story.
The yield.
So, but yeah, still a great book to read, and it started me on my journey, so I can't knock it too hard.
Yeah, I think for me now, whenever I hear someone's buying in Ballarat, I still feel like I'm missing out on something, because that was so ingrained in me when I started.
Yeah, definitely. We looked there, and that's where we ended up buying. But I can't say that book didn't influence that choice. So
yeah, exactly. And sorry, whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in the western suburbs of Melbourne, so
Okay.
in a little town called Albion, which not many people may know, but it sits squarely next to Sunshine, which has its
very
own
nice
connotations. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it wasn't a purchase next to mum and dad. It was heavily Steve McKnight inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the time, I was only 21 or 22. My partner was the same. He was an apprentice, earning next to nothing, electrical apprentice, and I was at uni. So we were a bit tentative to borrow a huge amount of money. You know, so in hindsight, we absolutely could have. But I think because we were quite young, you know, purchasing at a lower entry cost was quite appealing to us, because we didn't, you know, Aaron's situation was precarious. He was an electrician and he was an apprentice. You know, he could have been fired at any point, and I was at uni.
Yeah.
So there was an element of reserve there, I think. You know, in hindsight, we could have bought something for double and done much better. But at the end of the day, you know, you live and you learn. And in saying that, it's not been a bad investment. But when you look back, you know, you think about things like opportunity cost. When you and yeah, so. But no, it's a good little investment. But yeah, not next to mum and dad.
It's one of those things. I mean, I've always thought about opportunity costs, but I heard something the other day, which was, you know, everyone in Australia that bought an investment property in this year has got an opportunity cost, apart from one person, who's the one person who bought the best performing capital growth and yield property in the year. You know, everyone else has got opportunity cost because of that. You know what I mean? So it's hard to draw that line about, you know, how big the opportunity cost is. And if you're saying that you've done well enough and if you learned some lessons from it, then it could be for the better anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually never thought of it that way. That's really interesting perspective.
Yeah, it was awesome when I heard it too. And I think it applies to everything in life. Like, depending on what job you take or depending on, how big your salary is, means you have an increased borrowing capacity, which is opportunity cost. Everything in life is an opportunity cost, really, apart from the one person who bought the best property this year. So, being younger and you being at uni and your partner being an apprentice, was that the hardest part of getting started, or what do you think was, the hardest grind to, save the deposit or just getting started?
I mean, basically, I just said to Aaron, look, I want to buy a property. He said, okay. And I said, you know what, we've got to save our cash. So you're really bad at that. So I'm just going to automate it. It's going to go over here and you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, cool. So the saving wasn't too hard. It took us about a year. But I think the hardest part is, when you're working full time, it's hard to sink the time and energy into the research and making sure that you're buying the best property for your situation or your strategy. And especially when you're young and you don't have someone around you who's done that before, that's a really isolating experience. So if you don't have anyone to ask for advice, it can be quite challenging. And when all your friends are going to Europe and having the time of their lives, saying, what are you doing? Come with me. Like at that time in our lives, that was really challenging.
Yeah, I can just imagine. And I think, just seeing even like cars and renting really nice places as well, like moving out from mum and dad's, all of those things at that point in your life, being younger, it's so, you want to do that. You want to be away from mum and dad and have your own freedom and drive a nice car and all of these things. But, when other people don't realize what your ultimate goal is, it's hard for you to justify it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's really, really interesting situation. So back then you have everyone saying, why aren't you coming to Europe with us? Why can't you come out this weekend? Why do you drive a bomb and not, some BMW like we're driving? But now, a few years later, they're going, oh, hang on, maybe I should have took a leaf out of their book. So it's really interesting turn of events.
Yeah, I'm getting that a lot now too. Like a lot of and I guess that was the whole start for the YouTube channel really, and the podcast is I got a lot of my school friends asking me, oh, what's this property investing thing? How do I get started? How did you do it? What properties did you buy? And now it's kind of just all turning around. So
yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting. And I feel like I have a lot of friends who are approaching their 30s and haven't got a property, haven't really done much with their money, and they're looking at me and they're saying, Courtney, how have I dug myself a hole? And my situation is so different to yours, but we've been on like a similar income, we've come from a similar place, and they're potentially X amount in debt, and you've got a couple of properties under your belt. And I think it's really important that you're doing, a podcast like this, because maybe someone will pick it up and maybe that'll influence their choice down the track, and they don't have to be in that situation when they're hitting their 30s.
Yeah, and that's honestly, that's my ultimate goal. Like if I can stop people in our generation from, number one, buying an off the plan apartment and being in negative equity, and number two, buying something that's going to set them up for the rest of their life. Like there's only so many investment properties that I can buy. So, I don't want to be greedy with my knowledge or anything like that. I just want to help people set themselves up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they don't teach us things in school. We learn how to do trigonometry. I've never used that once in my life. But how to do a tax return or how to apply for a loan would probably be some practical information, but they don't teach you that. So, it's up to people like you who have a podcast or have a YouTube channel to provide that information where it sort of lacks in the traditional system.
Sense. Yeah. I wonder if it's going to get changed anytime soon. I don't know if it is, but I couldn't agree more. There's
I
just
don't
no.
think so.
Yeah. It's
I
just
mean,
so.
I'm going to say something a little controversial here, but I think they like it that way because, who else would, keep the economy going?
Yeah, that's true.
If
Actually.
everyone was really great with them, if everyone was really, really great with their money, the economy probably wouldn't be doing as well.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone's got to be in a different headspace to keep the wheels churning in every different direction.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. So, how much of a deposit did you start your portfolio with? Did you have to you say for a year, but was it a really hard, long year of saving, or did you get away with quite a smaller deposit?
We got away with a smaller deposit because we bought in Ballarat. We saved 25.
Okay.
So we put 20 down and we did the world's cheapest reno. We renovated a house on $5,000. That's an achievement in its own. So, 25 got us in. And I think we paid a little bit of LMI.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, but because we were buying at a lower price point, we could do that. I suppose if we bought something a bit bigger, we would have had to save a little bit longer, but it's definitely doable at that price point.
Yeah, for sure. We our first one we bought on a 90% LVR, so we had to pay lender's mortgage insurance as well. And I think, looking back, I was kind of a bit, do I have to pay this? But it's so worth it just to get your foot into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And they pop it on your loan, so you don't even really see it. And my attitude towards it is very much pay it when you have to and avoid it when you can.
So. I know what podcast you listen to. Nah, the guys over at the Property Couch are fantastic, and I love what they're doing, not only on their podcast but with Pippa and Picker, and trying to bring some standards into the property investment space. So
yeah,
I wish them all the best and want to support them in any way possible.
Yeah, Ben and Bryce, they're actually really cool. I've met them a couple of times, and they've been really, really helpful towards me and my partner as well as their team. So I really can't say highly enough of them.
Yeah, they're fantastic. They're just the knowledge that they give out, and even their podcast started, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now or something like that, and they still say go back to their first episode because the fundamentals that they teach is so valuable, and I'd highly recommend anyone go back and listen to at least their first 20 episodes just to understand some of the fundamentals there. You talked a little bit about passive income, and is that your ultimate goal for investing in property?
Yeah, so we have a goal of having $120,000 passive income by the time we're 60. So
nice.
It's just it's a lofty goal, but at the same time, it's very realistic and very achievable for where we are in our lives and our income. So, I mean, we won't be driving Ferraris, but we'll definitely be a lot more comfortable than other Australians.
Yeah, for sure. And you're not relying on, the government or the pension, and we don't even know if the pension will be there by the time we get to that age. But, you're not being a burden on the economy. You're actually putting back in, which is great.
My girlfriend said to me, "Oh, I don't know why you're bothering. You'll just have the pension and it'll be fine." And I said, "Well, that's if the pension is still there when we're 70." And
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think it will be. So
who knows what's going to change between now and then.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what's been your most successful deal?
Well, with our second property, we bought in Pascoe Vale, and we used a buyer's agent to help us with that one. I was working full time, and I really didn't have a lot of spare time to sink into it. So that we bought a house in Pascoe Vale. We renovated it, and in about 3-4 months, we'd made 120K in equity. So that was probably that was the best one, I would say.
Wow, 3 or 4 months. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It was
Did you,
a lot of hard work. Yeah.
how much did you spend on the reno? Was it a significant amount?
Um, no, no, it was the world's cheapest reno. My partner's electrician, and we have quite a big network of trades. So a lot of friends helped us out. We spent about 45 on it, and we did the whole house. So we
Yeah,
added a
wow.
bedroom, we added a lounge room, balcony, the whole works. So we're pretty good at doing renos on the cheap. But we try to provide like a really good standard at the same time. It's not just like you're slapping things together. We put a lot of care and effort, but at the same time we pay with our time. So I
Yeah.
painted the whole thing inside and out. So
Wow.
if you factor in your time, it's obviously a bit more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's hard work though too. Like we did a small reno on our last property, like maybe 10 grand, and put a lot of elbow grease into that as well. And it takes it out of you.
Yeah, you kind of go on a bit of a journey. The first month is like, wow, this is so fun. And the second month is like, yep, cool, we're making progress. And then the third month, you kind of like, get me out of here.
I've had enough. And
I've had enough.
did you pull out that 120 worth of equity straight away, or did you leave it in there and now it's in an offset account or something like that?
We left it in there because we weren't ready to sort of pull the trigger again, and we fixed our loans. We wanted a bit of a breather. We were going to go overseas, so we're like, we'll do this when we get back.
Yeah.
We just left it there, and when we're ready to go, we'll revisit that. So
Yeah, that's good. No, I was just wondering if you churned it over quickly and went again. But yeah, we kind of do the same thing where we could go at a much faster pace if we wanted to. But I think, just holding on to a couple of good assets is really all we want to do. And I don't want to over commit, at this age as well.
Yeah, no, we didn't want to pull out the equity straight away and go again, because at that point in time, it was sort of right at the top of the market, and we were kind of foreseeing that it was going to pull back a little bit, and we didn't want to sort of burn our bridge there. So we thought we'll just wait. We'll see how we are in 12 months' time when we're ready to go. And, to be honest, we don't really need to pull out the equity. We've saved our little butts off, and we can do it standalone. So all our loans are sort of standalone. They're not cross-collateralized, so it works for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. If you've got the opportunity not to pull it out and you've saved that amount again, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, it was a hard work, but we got there in the end, and we're about ready to go.
Good on you. So for the third one, I mean, how you've obviously bought two before, but now looking back on your previous two purchases and, all of the podcasts and books that you've read, how do you assess the investment potential of a property?
For us, it's really about location. So the first one we bought was in a rural area, and it's a high yielding property, which is great for cash flow. The second one we bought is in an area that's about 12 k's out of Melbourne CBD, which was great for capital gains. So I think we'll just be looking at a standalone house in a blue chip area within about 10 to 12 k's of Melbourne CBD again, because they're the type of properties that really drive demand and are really sort of becoming scarce, at a certain price point. So everyone wants to live in a home and have a little bit of land. So people are going to pay a premium for that in the future, because there's only so much land available and there's only so many houses in those areas. So we're just looking for something that's gonna give us a high return.
Yeah, exactly. And you've done a property, you've done a couple of different strategies there. It sounds like you've sort of got the buy and hold on that first one, and then done a little bit of a renovation, and now holding on the second one. Is that the plan for the third one, or what's your strategy going to be there?
It was always going to be buy and hold. We recently had a chat around whether because we will classify ourselves as rent investors. So we'll be renting and we'll own these properties. But we were sort of tossing around the idea of whether we buy a home and sort of just leapfrog it. But I think we're just going to stick to our guns, just buy, blue chip properties and just hold them for the long term. I mean, we could get in there and do it, like some renos or flip a couple of properties, but at the end of the day, we do enjoy property investing, and it is, a good way to create passive income. But at the same time, we do have jobs, we have lives outside of that. So we're trying to achieve that, but not necessarily have it consume our entire lives.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, I think Ben and Bryce even say it themselves, like 10 hours a year or something like that you put towards property investing, and the rest is just passive income.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the last one I kind of took it out, so we're a little bit tight. So I think we're just going to do a buy and hold for the next one. I think we're probably only, like, we did a plan with like a property plan at the beginning of our journey, and we probably only need about 4-ish. So there's no point going out and buying 100 when 4 will do the trick. So.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because at the start of my journey, I wasn't going to get 130 like Steve McKnight, but I was always a 10 properties in 10 years sort of guy. And I think, given the education and all the reading and stuff that I've done lately, I've really come to terms with all I need is 3 or 4 really good, strong assets that are going to compound over time. And that's it. You know what I mean? You can you can sell 2 and pay the other 2 off. You can hold on to them and just keep them positively cash flowed. Like there's so much you can do with so little. You don't need this exorbitant, property portfolio to be classified as successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to be able to sleep at night. You don't want it to be a house of cards that can potentially come crumbling down. So the way that we've done it sort of a little bit more slowly. But at the end of the day, if I lost my job tomorrow, I could chill out for a year and not even blink an eyelid. And that's a part of property investing that is really important to us. So we want to be able to not be stressed about repayments, nothing like that. We want to have really nice, healthy buffers in place because it just attributes to our quality of life.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And, having that transition of being nervous about, because our first property that we bought was more of our first home. So we bought it before we got married, and we lived there for 3 years. And then we turned it into an investment property. And the transition of having to, constantly worry about being able to pay our mortgage down to now, both our properties being able to fund the place that we live, plus cover all the costs for themselves. It's phenomenal to have that relief.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, if we had have gone hard and bought a few more, that wouldn't be the case. So
yeah,
I'm just focused on purchasing a really high quality property that's going to be in demand well into the future, close proximity to CBD, with potential to add value somewhere down the track if we would like. So, we might be a bit tired now from our last reno, but 5 years down the track, we might find ourselves with a bit of energy or a bit of time. So, we want to be able to be like, hey, cool, we can renovate this one, or we can maybe subdivide it. But we're going to be focused on buying something that has those opportunities or has the ability for us to add a bit of value should we want to in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And is that part of like managing your risk for investing in property? And what is your exit strategy, do you think, after you've bought them?
Well, we don't necessarily have an exit strategy in terms of selling them. Everything we buy, we plan to hold for quite some time, really. And in terms of risk, we just make sure we have all the right insurances. So that's like, income protection is a really important one. So yeah, just making sure we've got healthy buffers, and just making sure the decisions that we make not have unforeseen circumstances. So, you know, as I told you before, we've got a property plan, and it's sort of all the numbers are set out there in front of us. So we're sort of not walking blindly. We've got a target to hit.
Yeah.
And if we hit that target, it's got a predictable outcome. So I feel like the risk is pretty well managed in that respect.
Yeah,
where
for sure.
we're not just sort of making rash decisions on the fly. It's all mapped out what we need to do. So yeah, it's pretty predictable, really, and pretty boring. And essentially, property investing should be boring. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's sometimes the best advice is boring advice. I think the biggest thing that resonated with me is just understanding that having 3 months worth of, salary just sitting there as a buffer is so important, and not, I'd always used to see that as part of a deposit for the next house, but sitting on that buffer. So being worst case scenario, both of us lost our jobs. We've got money sitting there to just cover ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the biggest favors you can do for yourself if you are thinking about getting into property. Cool, you've got your deposit, you buy it, but the very next thing you should be doing is stockpiling a little bit of cash, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it be, to, its purpose is to do nothing other than give you peace of mind, and that's priceless.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about people getting into property investing, I mean, have you made many mistakes along your journey? And, if you could give anyone advice about not making a mistake, what would it be?
Well, I think you're always going to make a mistake. I mean, no one gets through unscathed, I don't think. And, upon reflection, our first property, we could have went harder, but at the same time, it's a good yielding property. So, I just look back on it like a bit of a learning lesson. But also, I think one of the biggest things, and I know this sounds ludicrous because I started at 21, but I wish I had started earlier. When I was younger, I was on pretty good money when all my friends were at school and uni. I started uni late, and in the in-between years, I was on really good money. But did you think I saved a penny of it? No. So, the newest jeans or the newest dress always won out in those years. But
Yeah.
I would say to anybody who's even remotely close to being on their radar, even if you're not ready to pull the trigger, start getting your ducks in a line now, because when you do decide that you're ready to pull the trigger, you'll have done all the work that will enable you to do that. There's nothing worse than going, oh, I've just read an awesome book. I know what passive income is. I want to buy a property. Oh, wait, I haven't got $1. So, start saving now, and your future self will absolutely thank you for it.
Yeah, wealth creation doesn't happen overnight, right? It's part of the process. You've got to plan these things out.
Yeah, exactly. And, back in the day, my dad would say to me, oh, save your money for a rainy day. And although that is great advice, I wish he would have tied that with something emotional that would have really made me think. So, like, if you save your money now and buy a house early, you won't have to work for the next 60 years. You can clock out at 45 or 50, or something a bit more tangible than a rainy day, because when you're 16 you don't have rainy days. So starting as early as you can, that's a big one.
Yeah, beautiful. And I mean, you've talked about a couple of books that have helped you along the journey, but is there any other resources that you use that have really pushed you through?
I love Ben and Bryce's book, An Armchair Guide to Property Investing. That's really great for a different perspective when you're looking at capital growth mixed with a little bit of yield, but where the focus is on capital growth, good quality properties. Mm-hmm. The 4-Hour Workweek was amazing for talking about passive income and sort of switching your mentality from like have a job for 30 years, 40 years, to hey, there's something else I can do that will help me along the journey. And I mean, I suppose the people at realestate.com, if they saw the amount of time I spent on there, they would probably send help. But I love that website just for research. And a few YouTube channels I watch, not necessarily related to property, but personal finance. I love Sugar Mama TV. She does this really cool thing called the $1,000 Project, where she encourages you to save and manifest parcels of $1,000. So her emphasis is on like breaking down goals. And then Aussie Wealth Creation, he talks about shares, but it's good to sort of get a good broad knowledge of personal finance as well as property, and what shares are, just to give you a good generalized knowledge of finance.
Yeah, I think that's a great mix. Like there's nothing it is kind of property focused, all the resources that you do use, but there's so much else that's in there as well. Even the 4-hour work week, it's not necessarily, wealth creation talking about, it's more about freeing up your time to spend it how you want. And I think there's a lot of resources in there. Even the armchair guide to property investing, like they've got a great section at the back of their book with some client scenarios that they've worked on in the past. And I think that's even great just to read, to get an understanding that, not everyone is in the same boat. There's no stock standard method for property investing. Everyone has different goals and they want different things in life, and they want to replace, bigger and different amounts of income. So there's not just one approach that's going to suit all cases.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I make an effort to sort of, you can fall down the hole of subscribing to one particular strategy or one particular method, and then you kind of block out other people's information or input. But I've made a point to really stay open-minded, because at the end of the day, I'm not an expert in this. Like, I'm not a property professional. I don't spend all day, every day in property. I'm not a real estate agent. So I always assume that there are people out there with a higher level of knowledge than I have. So I'm always open to hearing other people's strategies that differ from my own, because who's to say I have the best strategy? Who's to say I have the most knowledge? So that's why I sort of read and consume across, all areas of personal finance.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it all comes back to those fundamentals as well. Like you were saying before, the best advice is boring advice. There's nothing sexy about property investing. If you're reading an article about the latest hotspot, it's probably too late to buy in there. There's already a reason why it's now the new hotspot. It's because prices have already increased. So, there's there's no brand new thing that's going to be exciting and new and going to make you all this money overnight. It's just sticking to those fundamentals, I guess. So what is your favorite quote? Like, what gets you up in the morning and motivates you to do what you do?
I don't really have a favorite quote or like a quote that I live by, but just the fact that I can get up in the morning and walk my dog, and just have a coffee at my leisure and don't have to go to work if I don't want to, or, just the idea of in the future, I can go out and do the things I really enjoy. So whether that be volunteering for, like an animal shelter, or if I want to go spend 3 months overseas, I can do that without blinking an eye. And it's the vision of my future self, and having that opportunity is sort of what keeps me going.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just having that lifestyle really is the end goal. And I guess that's the same for me, really.
Yeah, definitely.
So what advice would you give to our generation to get started?
I really feel for us millennials. We kind of get it from everywhere in terms of the media saying how hard it is to get into property, and how we're sort of, up the creek without a paddle. But at the end of the day, there's people like myself and there's people like you who are doing it, and we're figuring out a way to do it. And all we've really done is just put our head down, our bum up, and worked really hard. So there's no reason why any millennial out there can't buy a home or can't have a property portfolio just because, house prices are perceived to be high. Every generation has had its struggles, and this is just ours. And there's always a way. You can always find a way.
Yeah,
or find someone who knows the way.
Yeah, that's right. It's all about having the advisors around you as well. That they might seem like a big cost, but they'll always guide you and find a way for you. So yeah, I couldn't agree more of having just that motivation to do something, just get started. And I think that's fantastic advice.
Because, if you believe you can do it, you will. And if you believe that you can't, you won't. So it sort of all really does start with your mindset. And that's sometimes often the hardest thing to overcome. So, if you don't have people around you that have done it before, go find a virtual mentor, watch a few YouTube channels, read a few books, and then head down, bum up.
I love it. Perfect. Well, thanks for today, Courtney. It's been great to have you on.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
That's right. I hope someone gets some motivation out of this one.
Yeah, definitely. And, I hope there's some girls out there who might have been wondering whether they can do it, that, just the fact that I'm a girl, I'm still in my 20s and I'm doing it, means that you absolutely can too.
What an incredible conversation. As Courtney said, there's nothing special or out of the ordinary you need to do. Just putting your head down, setting a plan, and hitting your goals can set you up financially for the rest of your life. If you're keen for more content like this, make sure you subscribe and please leave us a review with any feedback for future podcasts. And until next time, happy house hunting.